Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for June 22nd through 24th. How are you doing? We are coming out of this intense and powerful eclipse, solstice portal, timeline alignment. Very strange energy, a little bit hard to kind of get a grip of what's going on, and maybe that's part of the message. Stop trying so hard to get a grip and just flow with all of this water energy. Now the sun is in Cancer. There's really only one choice, is to flow with things going on now. So we're still feeling Mars in Pisces in sextile, coming off of sextile with Pluto in the next couple of days, and then sextile with Jupiter. So we're still feeling the effects of this. Now, it was exact and very most potent right at that eclipse solstice. So it kind of is holding the energy of what it is we just went through and what this might mean for us in the future or as we move forward. So sextiles are harmonious solutions, creative solutions. Let's do this. Let's work together. Let's jimmy the lock on this. And so we're talking about Mars wanting to move forward out of the Piscean age in maybe deeper into the Pisces energy in order to get out of it, complete it. And then Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn about breaking down, expanding the breaking down of our structures, of our society, of structures of our life. So it's an interesting energy, and it's like we don't quite know. It's going to take a little bit. Typically after a new moon, which is what this eclipse was, it takes about 3 days to come out of that, 2 to 3 days to come out of that energy. So the next couple of days, we're still feeling this sextile to Mars, sextile Pluto, Jupiter. We're still kind of in the strange energy of adjustment of what just happened. And a lot came through around this solstice eclipse being a big adjustment, but that will take a lot of time to adjust to. So this is kind of the name of the game. We're adjusting to adjustments. And then you're adjusted so far that you don't even know where you were in the first place or where you're trying to go. That's this Gemini energy, and this is going to be culminating because Venus is about to turn direct on Thursday, the 25th. So we will have a bloom of the confusion. It's like, oh yeah, cool, Venus direct, right? But it's like when that energy shifts and Venus starts moving, it's going to stir up more of this confusion, more of this, where am I going? Who am I? What do I want? What am I even doing here? And so, again, it's all these mutable energies with Gemini and Pisces. And so we're adjusting to the adjustments. And so, but I think that when Venus turns direct, it's going to start bringing up like a little bit. It could bring clarity around what in the heck this time has been about for you. And we have to remember that because of this Venus retrograde in Gemini, a lot of times when the planets our personal planets take a retrograde, they'll go in between two signs, right? This time Venus has just stayed right here in Gemini and will be in Gemini for 4 whole months. So when these energies, so we're not really going to know what's going on until the end of July, when Venus comes out of its retrograde shadow. Mercury will complete its retrograde in the middle of the month of July, just turned retrograde. And then when they both are out, and then the first week of August, when Mercury will move into the sign of Leo, then we're going to be kind of like, okay, maybe it'll make more sense what has happened to us, what this whole period of time has been about. But right now, that's not where we're at. We're still adjusting to the adjustments and trying to flow with it and digging up all kinds of personal and planetary grief while we're at it, with Mars coming to the end degrees of Pisces, so this is really interesting because Mars is in the sextile for the next few days, pretty much till the end, till close to the end of the week. And, through that, pretty much, I think we'll be feeling that sextile up till Venus turning retrograde, and then Venus will steal the show, right? Venus is now at 5 degrees where it retrograded back to. So it has arrived. It's in the turning and staying at that 5 degrees for quite a while. But Mars in the sextile to Jupiter and Pluto, trying to jimmy the lock on what needs to happen in the physical world, in our manifest reality, in the structures of our life, to be able to get on those more optimal timelines, to get going with this new earth energy. But overlapping, we're starting to feel today Mars come into a square with the nodes of the moon. So Mars in Pisces squaring up with the Gemini Sagittarius axis. So it's really powerful because it's like, okay, we can do this. We're trying to figure this out. We're trying to figure this out. And then Mars comes right into this T-square with the nodes. And it's like, it's kind of like, oh, no, you don't, right? There's an energy of like, radical. We can't just, so sextiles are like, let's do a little of this, a little of that, and we can kind of work our way. And the squares are like, end of the road, you've got to make a big shift. So it's almost like maybe Mars is getting informed by this sextile, and then we'll move into this square with the nodes. And now the nodes, just had an eclipse, so they're all activated. And it's like, okay, how are we going to get anywhere? And Mars may be bringing up the energy of going in circles, swimming around in the eddies of life. Every time you try to go, move, use your will, use your direction, you kind of snap back around the same old patterns. And yet, so this is such an interesting energy because it feels like, oh my gosh, these same old things are going on, but there's also this really radically different dynamic energy coming out of this eclipse. And it's like, are you ready to move? Are you, it's like we're all been kind of like, oh, this in between, this uncomfortable place, But what if stuff just starts like, whew, are you ready for that? And so maybe that's what July is about. It's about getting our ducks in a row, grounding out, flowing with it, coming to presence, coming to our emotional presence, being really with those feelings and emotions that Mars at the end degrees. So it's like Mars has that sextile with Pluto, Jupiter, and then comes to the very end of the degrees, and that's squares up with the nodes just before it moves into its home sign of Aries. A homecoming. Really great. Mars loves to be in Aries, and then crossing over that Aries point. So that happens, I think that happens at the end of the month. Yeah, right at the end of the month. But Mars is taking a retrograde this year in Aries. So there's a little bit of a like excitement, let's go, let's come out, let's do some stuff, let's get back to normal, desire to get back to normal, to just live life. And get out of the confusion, being able to act and decide and do things. But the fact that it's taking a retrograde this fall and culminating the year, because when it finally comes out of retrograde shadow, that's January 1st, 2021. Well, that's really this chapter we're in right now. We've got 6 months of solid dealing with the fallout of 2020 while it's still falling out too. But so because Mars is taking a retrograde, it's got a little different a feel in Aries. It's like, ooh, he's home, but he's like, ooh, maybe it's like we all want to come home. And that's this eclipse and this Cancer energy, Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and now the sun is in Cancer, and it's like, yeah, we want to come home, we want to feel safe here, we want to ground out, we want to feel like we can figure this life out on this planet right now. But coming home means you've got to, it's almost like all those places you've been running from, right? All that numb, stuck emotions, all the things, the places inside of you that have been asleep, traumatized. I can feel that from this whole experience of 2020, especially the last few months in this Venus retrograde, we went into a trauma-triggered immobilization. And then it's fine as long as you stay immobilized, right? When you start to wake up and move again, that's when the stuff comes up, So just know we're in a time of like, as the movement comes back, as these retrogrades harmonize, the mud is slinging. It's flying around because it's movement means movement. Movement is good. We need it. But it's also moving. Like I can feel this like in just these emotions that have been coming up over this last month, a planetary grief, personal grief, like where your life hasn't been going the way you wanted it to, and facing this kind of energy of failed purpose and mission and lost and why even bother and all that. And it's like all of that is now going to be, moving, coming alive. And so it's good, like the movement, just keep that in mind that you're going to feel better because things are going to be moving a little bit more when Venus turns direct, but it also means moving the tectonic plates of the stuck emotions that like maybe globally too, collectively, just kind of like we cannot move forward until we face the truth. Maybe this North Node in Gemini, till we face more of the truth, till we get real with what's going on instead of playing these games. Playing these games like this life on Earth is something to play around with. It's precious and profound spiritual experience and a spiritual gift that we have this opportunity to be here, aware that we're consciousness in a body, to learn and to grow. And for far too long, forces have absconded with this life force energy, with this beautiful experiment. And it can only go so far down that road now that the divine timelines are coming in. So we got some like sandpapery energy going on. It's like those divine timelines coming in, cool movement, some stuff, but then there's all these emotions and then the resistance in the collective and the energies, and we'll find that, of course, within ourselves to the movement. Like, wait a minute, maybe it's better just to go back into a mobilization, where I was numb. At least I knew, it kind of, was able to tell myself I had a handle on things, right? But we really need, so this is where I think the key right now is this water energy, and knowing that Mars at the end degrees of Pisces is just going to be bringing it up, squaring the nodes, frustration about not being able to resolve the past and move forward, right? But that square energy, that T-square, squares are about that. Like it's uncomfortable before you turn. It's got to get uncomfortable before you turn. So maybe it's partly us adjusting to this higher vibrational timeline energy, right? Where we have to get frustrated with things not working out, things not going our way, and surrender to the higher way, the true way, the one way, thy will. And so that's what it feels like. It's almost like this battle within ourselves to surrender to the divine timeline and resolve the past and take that leap into new vibrational energies, and then on the collective consciousness, the whole planet, coming up against that brick wall. It's like, if we keep going this way, we're becoming inanimate objects, robots, materialistic end of our evolution. And yet there's this huge energy, especially just like I can see this water, like a big wave, like moving through and saying, boom, push you around the corner. Stop thinking about it. Be present with the truth in each moment of just you as a spiritual being in a body on the earth, showing up for Earth School. You're not going to numb out anymore. You're going to be present, going to be here, and take that train ride around the corner when it comes, whatever that might mean. So coming up, we've got this Mars at the end of degrees of Pisces squaring the nodes, Venus turning direct. Now tomorrow Jupiter comes to 24 degrees into exact conjunction with Pluto. So it's really interesting because they're retrograde. Both Pluto and Jupiter are retrograde. They're coming together at 24 degrees, and they're going to come together again at 23 degrees. And so this is the rest of June and the first half of July is this exact conjunction retrograde, right? So it's like, in order to break down the structures and rebuild this world into something that's going to work for us moving forward, we got to go back. And so it just fits everything. Venus turning direct, and now the energies are moving, but it's like looking at these patterns having to come to the surface, right? We've been experiencing Venus retrograde unconsciously, a very uncomfortable feeling, and now coming to consciousness and coming up against that wall, Mars against the wall of the past and the future. Got to resolve that Piscean age. And so maybe that's part of this next couple of weeks, very crucial time with this Pluto-Jupiter conjunction of facing and clearing planetary authority contracts in order to turn that corner forward. If we're going to choose life on this planet or death on this planet, we're going to choose robot life, or we're going to choose living, breathing, organic structures that are transforming into light. The thing is like, when we go through that thing and the way it feels, it just feels like, like I'm holding on. I need to do something. I need to figure it out. What do I need to do right? What do I need to, but these divine timeline energies are so powerful, and they're beyond anything you can do or not do. It's not a time to worry about making the right or wrong decisions. It's like that whole thing of like, okay, surrender, but be present with the vibration as much as you can. But to surrender to the how. Because this energy coming in that's turning you around the corner, it doesn't make any sense. You're not going to see it coming. It's not going to fit into your structures of how the understanding comes in your life. You just got to be ready to step on that ride. So I'm glad we're here together. Now, it's interesting that the first week of July, at the 1st of July, the end of June, so this next week, the Sun and Mercury come back together for a conjunction. Now Mercury retrograde, the Sun in Cancer, so Mercury and the Sun together in Cancer, bringing, helping us resolve and understand that eclipse at 0 degrees Cancer. And who are we, and what does that mean for us in our day-to-day, everyday conceptual reality and how we live our life? What does it mean to come back to the mother? What does that mean for my life to hop on this divine timeline? And so really powerful energy. And then Venus, or the Sun and Mercury, so that's right there at the end of the month moving into July. It's like what takes us into July. And at the same time, the Sun and Mercury come together and square up with Chiron in Aries. Then Mars will conjunct Chiron, just as that's getting over, around the middle of the month. So we got a lot of Chiron energy coming. We got Pluto, Jupiter, exact. We got Chiron being activated by the personal planets. So the woundedness of the Earth stories coming home, and directly, very, very much coming home personally for these supernova souls, where you haven't been true to who you really are as a spiritual being and on your spiritual path for lifetimes because you had to survive. So what happens when you are living and they're not coming for you this time? You got to be who you are, except for it's been so long you might not even know who you are. And maybe that's this whole thing we're in, this whole 4 months of Venus and Gemini. I don't know who I am and what I want, because the games and the roles and the things I've been doing and everything in my life, it's just a gap between the way we've been living and that divine timeline, And this time right now, it's like, it's coming in, wanting to push us around the corner. And can we vibe onto that? Can we surrender? Can we let go? Can we flow with that big, big force? Because it's almost like it's not up to you to do it, and it's not your energy. It's like this big divine life force coming in. But, maybe you're being asked to play your role of resonating there and being brave in your life. Just take a few deep breaths and say, okay, I want to be true. I want to be true to who I am. I want to be true to the earth. I want to be true to my destiny and my amazing and powerful opportunity to be here in a body, aware of myself as consciousness, and get on the train, get on the boat. It's more like a boat with all this water. So really powerful energy, looking at where we, the wounds around where we haven't been able to be who we are. And then also powerful healing opportunities to just, maybe it's like that snap of that timeline, like getting activated. It's like hitting you in the face. It's like, wait, that's who I am. So really intense times, and it's like I could talk all day and still not really explain anything because I don't really know what's going on. But we're getting a clue, we're hanging in there, and we're being here together, and it'll be interesting to see, by the end of July, maybe we will have a little bit more of a clue. Get that, but be, as much as you can, be present for these. There's definitely messages around the Pluto-Jupiter conjunctions. When that happened before, it was the first time they were going direct, and we didn't really know what was going on. And it was during the whole crisis energy just taking off, so we didn't know what was going on. But as we, stepping back, it's really clear to see that the mechanisms of control energies, the oppressive clamp down in the lower vibrational energies, was a direct result of the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, meaning that the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is trying to blow the lid off of this place, right? Like, we're all out of quarantine. Lower matrix is falling apart. And maybe that's it. Like, as one by one we receive and get on that boat, turn the corner into that divine timeline energy, we're supporting. It's like each one of us that starts to exist outside of the lower matrix is supporting the dismantling of that lower matrix. It's not easy to be the forerunner. There's nobody to guide you, But incredibly potent time. So just from Mother Earth and from Source Energy, just deep gratitude for you being aware of the magical potency of these times, of blowing the lid off of the lower matrix and letting the light back in. Letting the spirit back in, letting those synchronicities flow, letting life feel like you're held and guided. Maybe that's this Cancer energy, but we just haven't, it's going to take a little while to understand and adjust and allow ourselves to get in the flow. So get in the flow, have fun. And it's powerful energy with Mercury going retrograde and the sun coming up in Cancer, squaring Chiron, and then Mars at the end degrees of Pisces, stirring up the mud, trying to be the magic key with that sextile energy, but then coming up with a square with the nodes. It's back and it's going forward, going backwards. and maybe getting a little getting somewhere a little bit in there. So hang in there. I look forward to seeing you for the next update on Wednesday. And until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.